The injured bird flapped feebly and hobbled to the edge of a crumbling tarmac road. On hearing an approaching motor, other younger and healthier-looking specimens kept their distance and flew swiftly up into the ice-blue sky, where they circled and cawed as the vehicle came to a stop nearby. A young man left the warmth of his cab and hurried carefully toward the invalid creature. As he drew near, the blackbird struggled to get further away from perceived danger and potential capture. It squawked and again flapped wildly, but could not lift up from the muddied field. Taking off his jacket, he threw it gently over the bird, wary of beak and claws with which it might make a last-minute effort to escape his attempts to bring it some comfort. Scooping the bundle up into his arms, he made his way quietly back to the pickup and placed his find on the passenger seat before sliding once more behind the wheel and continuing on his way home. Home was an unremarkable canal boat, moored in the farthest corner of a large marina. It was painted dark green, with little evidence of its former glory and traditional bright decoration. The rear cockpit was covered with a tatty tarpaulin, which flapped in the light wind that lifted Kevin's floppy fringe from his brow. Unhooking the corner from a strategically placed cleat, he stepped down into the cockpit well and, having taken a key from his back pocket, unlocked the cabin doors. Inside the long, narrow vessel was surprisingly warm and tidy, despite it appearing to be overfull. Tidy, that is, if you're prepared to ignore the various bits of paraphernalia that were strewn on the bed in the tiny chamber, and the marginally better organized tools and equipment that hung from a row of hooks affixed to the side wall opposite the sliding door. The door had obviously not been closed for a long time, and there was no evidence at all of the bed having been used for its intended purpose. There was no mattress and no bedding, just boards and cupboards above the head and foot. The cupboards were closed, although small pieces of fabric showed here and there, making it clear that there was plenty stored within. Further into the boat, the space opened out into a galley kitchen and a dining area, at the far end of which was a wood-burning stove with a tall chimney that protruded through the ceiling. Here, then, was the source of the warmth. A kettle sang on the top of the stove, and from elsewhere emanated a delicious aroma, a stew or casserole perhaps, which had been left to cook while Kevin was out doing his business. His business. What exactly was his business? From the various chisels, saws, axes, and rasps that hung from the aforementioned hooks, you might imagine that he was some sort of carpenter, and indeed he had fitted out most of the interior of his boat. As you look around, it becomes apparent from the sleeping bag neatly rolled up on the end of the dining bench that this was where Kevin slept, and ate, and worked on his small laptop. Perhaps he watched Netflix or listened to music, or maybe he just enjoyed the peace and quiet of his compact home afloat. A short while later, the ailing bird was comfortably ensconced in a large dog cage, which Kevin, having retrieved it from under some other items in the disused bed, had unfolded, placed towels inside, and then situated it in the space opposite his bench cum bed cum everything else. The bird eyed him warily as he made himself a cup of coffee and ladled himself a bowl of steaming stew from the big iron pot that stood on his small Keller gas stove. It was obvious from his calculated movements that this was a routine that he followed on a regular basis. Soon he was dozing in front of the black-screened laptop. He had intended to check his emails to see if there were any more orders and to make a note of his bank balance, but tiredness overcame him. He forced himself up from the seat, found a bowl for water for the bird and another for some wild bird seed that he happened to have in his store cupboard above the small fridge, placed a good-sized log in the stove, and was just unrolling his sleeping bag when there was a loud knock at the roof above his head.